What's up guys, it's McNulty here. Welcome back to the channel. I hope you guys are all doing well and I hope you are ready because things are getting heated. It's time for the best of the best fire, epic and rare heroes. So we're going to be counting down the best epic and rare heroes in fire for Empires and Puzzles for 2024. We've got a fair few heroes to go through and I want to say a massive thank you guys for sticking with me through this series. It's been really fun making these videos. And I want to encourage you that this may be the end of this series, but it's definitely not the end because I've got some pretty big plans coming up. So hopefully you guys will like it. But for now, we are going to get right into this list and we are going to be counting down. We're trying to pick out the best of these heroes. We have quite a few to go through. So I think I counted 43 in the epics. And then we've got 30 rares. And in the fire element, these are some of the heroes that you will use all of the time. So I'm really excited to go through these and we're going to get started by the top row. Obviously we're going to go left to right and we're going to go down and then we're going to pick out the top 5 epics and the top 5 rares in the fire element. So let's get started. So in the left hand corner over here we have I think you say his name is Iadhan, whatever it is. He is one of the Slayers family heroes and actually a pretty good hero. I would say I'll give him an A+, not quite S tier. He does hit all for about 210% damage and he summons the Willy Wisp Fiends or Wily Wisp Fiends to all enemies. Plus he increases his attack and he increases his mana generation every turn. So even though he's kind of slow, he can be pretty damn usable and quite a good hero. So I'll give him an A+. Now next to him, we have Bold Tusk. Bold Tusk has come a long way. He's still ugly as sin. I wanted to swear there, but we'll keep this family friendly. He is absolutely butt ugly, but he's a really good healer. He's got good versatility. So in the first costume, he's got the heal and attack boost. In the initial costume, the chef's hat he's got is just a higher heal and a slightly lower attack boost. So pretty decent if you need a bit more survivability. And then in the second costume, he's got that rage effect where he increases the attack nicely and boosts the health. So he can actually be pretty usable in this version against Titans as well. And you know, you can have some fun with Bold Tusk as part of an attack team. I really like it. And now we do have a costume for Bold Tusk. So I would say that he is an S tier hero out of these epics. Now Carol is next to him and she is just an absolute waste of space and time. She got a buff recently where she got her damage increased, but it just takes far too long to trigger. Even though she's running at fast speed, it's one of those delayed damage effects. So I'm not a huge fan of Carol. She can go in, I'd give her a D grade. Now let's move on. So Cillian. Cillian is a great hitter. He used to be the premier hero in events. If you want somebody who hits 3 for a truckload of damage, Cillian is your guy. And again, he's from the Slayers family, so he gets that mana increase every turn. So he is really good. However, he has been overshadowed by the guy who's right next to him, and that is Colin. Now, Colin is... he's an event must, I would say. He's a Titan must as well with this new costume that he's got with the elemental defense down, but an absolute must in events. He's great offensively, great defensively. He synergizes with himself, so you can have multiple copies of Colin, give the defense down and that massive hit against fire, and then just use the same costume again. This costume is the version that you'll see most often. But Colin is an absolute beast of a hero. So if you have his secondary costume, I would definitely recommend leveling him. He is an S tier hero and one of the best. And also, what was I going to say about Colin? I've completely forgotten now. But he's a fantastic hero. Just that's my point. Okay, now Eichelborg. He's an interesting hero. He's a hit one for 340% damage, and then he gives a negative 44% defense to the enemy with the highest base defense. So it's kind of tricky to work with if you do use him in raids and tournaments and things like that. But pretty good if you want him as a defense down against Titans. He does give defense down and a single target snipe. B plus, I would say, for Eichelborg. Now, Ferrant next to him was incredible, but now I feel like there's too many counters for Ferrant. And also, there are better counterattack heroes out there. So, I mean, two that come to mind right away would be Asmia and Cyprian. They're just doing a bit more in terms of the counterattack effect. Yes, he does decrease mana, which is quite cool. But, there was a time when he was absolutely amazing, but I feel like that time is kind of come and passed. I would still put him as an A grade hero, but not quite making the S tier. Now, next to him is Gormek. Man, Gormek, his tune is not here yet, but he has great versatility. I mean, he is a minion destroyer. He can dispel with tiles in the initial costume because of his wizard class and the superior talent. And then he can priority dispel in his second costume, and in the original version he just gives a decent defense down for an extended period of time, and he's one of the stockiest, beefiest mofos out there. So yeah, Gormek would definitely be an S tier for me. Guardian Falcon. So Guardian Falcon was the premier elemental defense down option before we saw the second costume for Colin, the one that we've just had a look at a second ago. He can still work. He's still good. He still gives elemental defense down, but he just doesn't hit even a third as hard, even though he's running at average speed. And for that reason, he does fall down a little bit, but he's still good. I would still give him an A plus for Guardian Falcon. Now, Itham, who's next to him, the objectified hero from the... I saw a comment on the forum when I was doing my research for this video. Somebody was saying it's nice to see male heroes getting objectified. Itham with his 12 pack or whatever he's got going on. He's an interesting looking hero. And in fact, he's kind of a good budget rush counter because he blocks buffs and he blocks buffs and he gives like an El Nadaha type effect where if the enemy try and give themselves buffs, they receive damage. Plus, he actually protects himself and the nearby heroes from mindless attack. He deals some dot damage as part of his special. It's quite a high amount now, over 2 turns, the water damage. Yeah, he's a pretty good hero, and he does have a decent hit as well. I'm not going to say S tier because you can't use him everywhere, and you probably need 2 of him to be effective in the rush format. But yeah, I'd give him an A, a solid A. And next to him we have Junaid. Junaid is a beast. If you have a copy of Junaid and you're thinking, yeah, he's dated, he's a season 4 hero, the power creep for the epic heroes is really nowhere near the kind of power creep that we see for the legendaries, and the rares is even less so. But Junaid hits like a beast. He's got a massive snipe, and he heals all of the team for 30% of the damage that he's dealing. Fantastic hero. If you do have him, I would recommend leveling him strongly. He is an S tier hero from this group. Now let's move on. So we've got Kilile. I would say with Kilile, her second costume is interesting. Pardon me, guys. But it's not enough damage. She's okay defensively in tournaments because what she does is she hits 3 and gives the burn, and then she heals for a percentage of that damage. But it's just not quite a hard enough hit. But she can be pretty good as a defensive hero. I would say like an average sort of hero for me. I would say B grade for Kilile, even though I did use her in her initial version a heck of a lot. But those were different days and different times, and the times have moved on. Lemminkainen from the Kalevala Heroes is an absolute waste of space, just really doesn't shine anywhere at all. And then next to him, we've got Lucy. Lucy, I like. So Lucy gets the -5% mana stack, that magic, horrible mana stack. And the first charge, she's pretty good on defense, where she reduces the mana. But then on the second charge, she's like a mini guardian hippo. The only downside to her is that she's very tricky to use, but she can be very fun to play around with. So I wouldn't quite say she's in the S tier, but I'd give her an A plus, a solid A plus. And then Mac, very one dimensional. Just again, there are much better counterattack heroes out there. I'm not going to waste any time on Mac. He's a dog water hero. Mohegan, I like Mohegan a lot. He's got good damage, beefy fiends. He's very, very good in Bloody Battle, because those fiends go on and they stay on, and they're pretty decent. Like I said, quite beefy fiends. So I really like him. I would say I'll put him in the S tier. I think he's definitely worth leveling, and I think that you will use him a little bit more than you think. So he is a good hero, but primarily I would say at the 4-star level, and also just shines like a superstar in the Bloody Battle format. Now, Nova is next to him. Nova gets a bad rap, I think. But to me, I think she is a really good healer. She has a very low, so she's got an okay kind of heal, but she is the only heal and cleanse in the fire element. So she kind of bases her heal off of tiles, and it can increase to a really decent amount, but it starts off really low. So that is the downside with her, but I still like Nova a lot. I still use her quite a bit as well. And I'm going to say she's close. She's pushing S tier just because she is has a unique skill amongst the fire heroes with that heal and cleanse. But yeah, A plus for Nova. Now let's move on to Raul. He's a dancing dude from the, I'm going to say opera heroes. Geez, there's so many families to remember. But yeah, Raul, I mean, he gets that Ballad of Attraction, which is basically a 3-turn buff block for 3, but it doesn't work very well. I would rather use Caedmon or Sabina, somebody who does more damage and gives the same kind of effect. That his damage is just terrible. He's not a very good hero. I think they need to work on the newer 4-stars that they're releasing because they're really lackluster. Speaking of lackluster, Rockamush, what the hell? Just terrible waste of a hero, like dog water, D or lower. He misses all the time. And it looks like he's going to be a great hero, but he isn't. Just don't bother with him. I did, and I completely regret it. So yeah, terrible hero. Scarlet. So Scarlet is the only attack down hero in fire, in the 4-star heroes at least. She is running at fast speed, and she's got a pretty okay hit. She's got the poison damage added. I'd say I like Scarlet because of her attack down effect, but it was a bit more useful in the past than it is today. So I'll still say she's an A-grade hero, just for the fact that she's running at fast speed, and that additional poison damage is pretty cool. Shade Reef. I also thought Shade Reeve was going to be an excellent hero when he came out, but he gives the attack and crit boost of like 30%, and then he gives that zombie or Draugr blessing, whatever you call it, like bleh. It just doesn't work. It's terrible bringing your allies back, and they like this zombie meat shield that can do nothing. I'm not a huge fan of Shade Reeve. I'm going to say C for Shade Reef. And then right next to him, we've got another terrible hero. So there are some bad ones in this bunch, and there's ones that I want to warn you against. Shale is a terrible healer. So at first charge, he only cleanses and heals himself. At second charge, he cleanses and heals the nearby. And the third charge, at slow speed, he cleanses with a health regen that is almost equal to Rigard. So I said about Nova, and she's kind of unique in her effect, but I feel like we can completely discount Shell because he's just terrible. So I'm not even going to count him as a decent healer. Definitely take Nova over him if you are lucky enough to have her. Sir Lancelot, my boy from the Knights. So Lancelot is a pretty good attack booster. You know, he increases the attack by 40%, or 48%, which is the same as what you get from a hero like Bold Tusk at his first charge. But Bold Tusk gets a heal as well, so he's much better in more areas. But where Lancelot shines is he's really good in the events, because he reduces the cost of your mana potions to your heroes. So he increases mana generation by 24%. So that means you do use less items, but that's only really if you're competing in events. So I'd say he's a B grade hero at best, other than in the events where he can shine. Sumitomo, just a terrible hero. I mean, single hero counter attack with mana gen. No, no, thank you. C grade at best. Right, who else do we have? So we're being pretty harsh today, I think. So Sumile. Sumile is awesome. He is a really hard hitter. I guess the costume is better because the damage is even bigger with the costume and the mischance is less. So he can deal some serious damage. But that mischance does suck a bit because if you're using him on offense, you can never rely on him. I would say as a defensive hero, he's pretty okay. But again, I would say maybe a B plus, nowhere near the S tier that we're looking for. Now, Sun Shangjiang, on the other hand, she is an S tier hero, excellent defense down, a pretty good hit. I feel like it should be a hit 3 equally. For Sun, I think she deserves at least that much, but she gets that scaling defense down, which is absolutely brilliant. And next to her, we have another absolute must hero. Like Wilbur is the best hero I've ever taken the time to level in the 4 stars. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. He's just such a versatile hero. He shines against Titans. He does so much. He gives the defense up. He gives the defense down. He gives shared damage. He's just an insanely good hero. And with the costume for Wilbur, he makes an even better one. I love Wilbur in both costumes. S tier all day long. Zaybog, funny looking guy, but an excellent skill. Absolutely excellent skill. He pairs really, really well with 5-star heroes. And if you didn't get a chance to pick Narcissa from the Soul Exchange, he'll do the same thing in a pinch. Not exactly the same thing, but pretty close. So he pairs really, really well with 5-star heroes. And I've just picked Cupido from the Soul Exchange, and I've been using those two alongside. And I'm telling you now, 5 turns of mindless heal is a lot better than 3. And that's the kind of power that this hero will give you. So Zaybog is an S tier hero. And then Zhao Yu next to him, nice hard hit, annoying Bernie minions for all. Great for bloody battle, absolutely brilliant hero. I'll give him an S tier as well. Actually, he's really good. I was gonna say A plus for him, but yeah, he actually is really good. Let's give him an S. So that's it for the epic heroes. Now we move on to the rare category, and we're gonna start off with Azar or Azar, whatever her name is. In Azar's hero, the costume is definitely better. And it's a pretty good 15% mana cut for the target and nearby. She hits and gives that mana cut, but there are better heroes in here that do the same thing. So I cannot give her an S tier just for that reason. So I'll give her an A. Bagreg next to her, very rare to have elemental defense down at the 3-star level. So they're always good. Plus he's got a nice good hit and a great passive as well, which gives him extra damage on top of his hit. So yeah, Bagrig would definitely make the S tier for me, as would Basil, who's right next to him. Basil gives a massive sort of team-wide counter attack, which is a bulwark effect, so it increases, and he gives a defense up that increases. But there's a problem with that, because the defense up makes his counterattack less effective. It would be so much better if they gave him damage reduction instead of the defense up, because it doesn't counterattack as much as you want it to. So that's the only downside for Basil. But as far as a great defensive hero, he's definitely in the S tier when it comes to rush. But I just wish they hadn't done that with the defense up. They should have given him something else. Bao Chan, Danny DeVito, my boy, he is awesome. As I was saying about Azar just a second ago, if you want a hero that is going to stand out and make you get an A grade on defense, like 99.9% of the time, this little ugly goblin is your guy. He's an awesome defensive hero, huge mana cut, and he gives a nice mana boost to the whole team as well. S tier, brilliant hero. And then Boots next to him has a unique effect. So he gives the Wither at the 3-star level. We don't have a Wither hero in the Goblins at the 4-star level yet, but we do have one in the 3-star level. I feel like he gets forgotten about because, again, he's the ugliest mofo in the whole game. Pretty damn close. I would say that this Granny Anushka is probably a contender. I hate her. But anyway, Boots is an absolutely awesome hero. He gives that Wither, plus he gives a defense down ailment with the damage on removal of that ailment. So yeah, he's a really unique hero at the 3-star level. Absolutely love Boots. He's an S tier hero all day long. And then right next to him, we have another S tier hero, which is the busted up faced boxing champion from the Christmas Heroes, Buster. So he's the reigning champion of the Christmas Fight Club, which I like to imagine is run by Santa and Mother North. They're just letting these elves beat up on each other. But, you know, jokes aside, Buster's an absolutely brilliant hero. Yes, his damage increase is dependent on tiles, but you only need a few tiles to make this hero absolutely sing. And in events, he's a must-have hero as well. Just an excellent hero, S tier for Buster. Now, Dante next to him, I feel like I'm taking a lot of time. I do apologize to you guys for that, but we got to do this right. This is our last one, so we got to do it right. So Dante, he bypasses buffs. Not really very usable at the 3-star level. I'm going to give him a B for now, but I think that in future he may become a little bit more usable. So we'll just reserve that spot for him for now. Eden, who's next to him, she's very versatile. I do use her a lot. She gives that mana reduction and has a decent hit 3 in the original version. And then in the costume version for Eden, she also gives a mana cut, but she gives a team-wide mana cut. So she's almost like a mini version of Li Ju, and again a hero that does it better than costume Azar does. So I would say if I gave Azar A, I've got to give Eden an A plus, and Bao Chan can run away with the title of the S tier mana cutter. And then we have Fawn. So Fawn has a very, very nice dodge for the team with damage on dodge, and she's running at fast speed. So she is like a mini Constance, and there's nothing not to like about this hero. Defense up, ether talent, fighter class, so she gets the chance to revive. Just a fantastic hero. S tier all day long. Hawkmoon next to her is a very popular hero. Not so popular with myself, unfortunately. I don't think she's bad. I think she's good. She heals in the original version, and that is literally all she does. And in the costume version, she has a heal and attack up. But with the costume, it's just such a small, tiny heal, and I hate heal over time because they can be removed. I'll give her an A. But that is pushing it for me. I'm not a huge fan of Hawkmoon, as you can tell. And then next to her we have Jahangir. So I feel like he was probably one of the first 3-star heroes I ever got. And he has a nice hit all and the burn. The tune is best with the stat boost plus the passive, and he's really good in rush. I just feel like there are some pretty amazing slow speed heroes in the 3-star element. So even though he's got the tune, I'm going to give him an A plus. I can't quite give him an S, but that's only because there's some other absolute monsters in the fire 3 stars. Now next to him, we have Cornell. Cornell has a cool mechanic. I love the mechanic where the attack is increased by 45% for all, plus it increases by 20% on the first charge, and then on the second charge he gives defense down with a decrease of 4% every turn when they're hit. I just wish it was the other way round. I think he can be paired up quite well with others though. So I'll give Cornell a solid A. He's a really good hero, but he's a little bit finicky. Now Lee's kind of cool. He is like Jahangir but with minions. So he does basically the same damage as Jahangir does. He does basically the minions do basically the same damage as Jahangir's burn damage does. The only problem is with Lee, minions can die, where the bird damage usually sticks. So if I gave Jahangir an A plus, I'm gonna give Lee an A. And that's just the way it is. This is my list. Okay. Now moving on, we've got Namahagi. Namahagi hits hard. He's got a 290% snipe at fast speed, and he increases the his attack by 45% and an extra 20% every time he's hit for 5 turns, which is why in a lot of cases you used to see many Nahagai, I think we'll call it, on defensive teams because he was just such an absolute beast. But there is a little secret. We have a hero that probably does it better. So I'm going to give Namahagi an A plus. And then next to him, Nashgar, kind of a waste of space, to be honest. Nothing to see here, even with the costume. Let's move on. Phoenicus. Phoenicus gives an attack up of 50% plus 24% mana generation for 3 turns to everyone except himself, which is kind of disappointing that he doesn't give it to himself, but it's still kind of a huge increase. 50% attack is big. So I do like Phoenicus. I'll give him a solid A plus as well. And then Rudolph next to him. Rudolph was a pretty popular hero, single target snipe. I think it's about 285%, so pretty high, almost as high as Namahage. And then, but that is about all that he's doing. He's got the mana cut to 20%. But yeah, he's kind of a one-trick reindeer, shall we say. So yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Rudolph. I don't know what did I give Namahage? If Namahage got an A plus, Rudolph can get an A. And then Rufus. I love Rufus. He's so cute. 210% damage to all. Bleed damage galore. He stacks freaking amazing. Like he's absolutely brilliant, and he gives the defense down as well. So yeah, I really do like him. The bleed damage stacks with his class. That's what I was trying to think of there. But yeah, he's an awesome hero. So S tier for Rufus. He is limited in terms of being in the rush format, but you can use a lot of these 3-star slow heroes. You can get enough time at the 3-star level to be able to charge them up. So he's still brilliant. And this little guy, Skreekok, I think you say, with his Rat Mania special or whatever it's called, he is the secret weapon that I was talking about. When we were looking at Namahage, he's a 290% damage, plus he gets that attack increase effect. Skreekok hits 3. He's running at average speed, so he's a little bit slower, but he hits 3 for 225% damage. And then not just himself, but the target and nearby get that Namahage effect where they get that 40% increase, 45% increase, plus the 20% extra on top of that. That bulwark effect gets going. So if you want an attack increaser and one that can hit 3, this is your guy. Plus he gets the special skill boost, so he's an S tier hero all day long. Next to him we have Squire Wabbit. Going hunting wabbits. It is Easter, so we've got to give this guy some props. Squire Rabbit has a massive snipe, 355% damage snipe at fast speed. That is just huge. Yes, he casts a negative 20% defense on himself for 3 turns, but 355% snipe. Just remember that. It's massive. So yeah, I'm going to give Squire. I can't not give him an A. I can't not give him an S tier, sorry. He's fantastic. Star Swift next to him, probably our newest 3-star hero. She does get a really good hit, 265% damage to the target nearby, plus a 20% increase on the mana generation. Pretty straightforward special, but a very good hit 3, plus the attack up ether talent. I'll put her in the S tier as well, just for those things. And then on the last row, now is when the big boys come to play. So Sudri can do massive damage. On defense, he can do up to 340% damage to all, but it is tile dependent. And that's why I specifically say on defense. On attack, he's not a very good hero because it takes you ages to get your tiles. And by the time you do, it's kind of just going to be 100% damage to all because there's no red tiles left on the board. But on defense, it's so easy to forget about this guy, especially in the rush format. And he's got to be an S tier hero. Volamork is terrible. Not even in bloody battle. I know people like to use him there. He's not good. He's not good. He's terrible. Wackass, on the other hand, though, he's amazing. He does 205% damage to all. He gives max health reduction. And remember, there's not many health boosters or health boost counters at the 3-star level, so that is just beautiful. And he gets that passive damage, which is a 70% chance to deal 70% extra damage on top of the 205% damage that he already does. So Wackass has got to be an S tier hero. And with that, we have reached the end of our lists. So we have done all of the 3 stars and we have done all of the 4 stars in the fire element. And there are some beauties in this list. So without any further ado, we are going to be counting down the top 5 epics and the top 5 rares. So let's start with the rares. They should be fresh in our mind because we've just gone over them. So coming in at number 5 for the rares in the fire element, it is Bagreg. Like I said, defense down, elemental defense down at the 3-star level is so rare. You've only really got Costume Nordri that is doing it and doing it well. And this guy just comes in and just smashes the door down and enters into that category for the 3 stars as well. So we've got to give Bagreg his props. So let's have a look at what he's doing. First charge, he's dealing 180% damage to the target nearby, which is just as good as a lot of the other 3 stars. But the target nearby are getting 34% decrease defense against fire for 3 turns. Plus, remember, he is getting the passive. Now, his passive is the Nightmare Family. I think it's something, just off the top of my head, I think it's like a 50% chance to deal an extra 80% damage. So that 180% damage hit can be like 260 on the first charge. And then on the second charge, which you probably will get to, because remember, we're talking about 3 stars here, he deals 200% damage to the target nearby, and the target nearby get a whopping 54% defense down against fire for 3 turns. So I absolutely love Bagreg, and he makes my number 5 for the 3 stars. Now at number 4, coming in burning super hot, we have Fawn. Just look at this chick. She is just like, she definitely hasn't ever gone into a battle in her life by the looks of her, but she is holding it down for the Stag family. So she, like I said before, she is like a mini version of Constance. I have Constance. I use her all the time. She's an absolutely fantastic defensive hero, and she will increase your scores on defense, especially in the tournaments. She's of the right class for her, so she's got the fighter class talent. And at fast speed, she gives all allies 45% chance to dodge. So that's basically 1 out of every 2 hits are going to be missing. Special skills for 3 turns. Each dodge damages the attacker for 80 damage. Now that might not sound like a lot, but to put this into perspective, each dodge that Constance does deals 100 damage. So it's only 20 damage less than a 5-star kind of counterpart, which in my opinion is really not that much. And then all allies receive a small amount of mana over 3 turns. So don't forget about that little mana. That is also going to be extremely helpful and a very good passive for this hero as well. So Fawn, easily makes my number 4 spot. Now the top 3, coming in 3rd place, we have 2 heroes. And the reason I've got these 2 here is because I went back and forth between the 2, and I was just thinking, like, who's more fun to use, who's more effective, and I really couldn't. It would have just been clutching straws between the 2, because both of these heroes are absolutely incredible. So first of all, I mean, Rufus creating a ruckus. He gets this massive hit, 210% damage to all enemies. He gets a 216 bleed damage over 4 turns. And normally, I hate the Barbarian class. I always go on about how much I hate it. But with this guy, I actually like it because the cool thing about bleed damage is that it stacks on top of itself. So that bleed damage can add on to his other bleed damage. And then he gives a decent amount of defense down for 4 turns. So it just makes him an absolute superstar in Rush. And then with Wakas, I know we just literally went over him about 2 seconds ago, but he is just such an awesome hero that he's worth mentioning again. 205% damage to all, but a 70% chance to deal an extra 70% damage. So basically 275% damage to all, reduces the max health of all by 110 each turn for 3 turns. I think there was some change around in this, to be fair, but I can't remember without going back to look at my card, and I can't do that now because we're on this list. But his health reduction is very unique either way. And obviously it can't get lower than 30%. We all know that. But that hero is a beast in the Rush format and even in other formats. So yeah, he definitely easily makes my number 3 spot. In fact, the 2 Rush superstars are tied for 3rd. Okay, now top 2. Second place, cover your eyes, close your ears, hide your children, is Boots. Just look how ugly this guy is. He's just butt ugly. Like, I can't look at him for longer than 3 seconds. All right, that's it. So he's an amazing hero. Like I said before, he is unique at the 3-star level. 200% damage to the target nearby. That's not unique. That's pretty good though. But the wither effect. So the target and nearby enemies get minus 40%, minus 40 attack and minus 40 defense. And if you look at his attack maxed out, it's 458. So 40 attack and 40 defense. You're looking at about 10% decrease on the attack and defense of a 3-star hero. And that's going to happen every time he fires off his special. And the target nearby are then going to get an additional minus 35% normal defense down for 3 turns. And if the effect gets removed before the duration ends, then the targets are going to suffer 116 damage. So honestly, this guy has so much going for him. I feel like he gets a bad rap because of his looks. But if you can close your eyes for a second long enough to max him, he's definitely going to do well on your teams. And that leads us on to the number 1 spot. And my number 1 for the 3 stars in fire goes to this guy, the Fight Club hero of the Christmas family. He has just beaten up every single other elf that has come up against him. Even the 5-star elves cannot compete with the greatness that is Buster. And I kind of mean that. He's absolutely awesome. And if you haven't given this little guy a chance, I really strongly suggest that you do. In fact, just this last Rush War, I used him as part of one of my attack teams. And he did just great, honestly. He's just such a cool hero. And he hits a lot harder than you think. So it's 275% damage that he does to the target and nearby. He is running at slow speed, and he summons an elf minion for the caster and nearby. Nothing too special about Buster so far, but he is unique at the 3-star level because all damage the target and nearby enemies receive is increased by 24% and a further 2% increase per each fire shield on the board for 4 turns, up to an additional 40% received damage, which means that Buster is an absolute must in the events. If you don't have him on your team, you're probably not going to be able to make it to where you need to be in the events. He's also excellent against Titans because we don't have an attack increaser like this against Titans in the red element. So in fire, he's a unique hero for that as well. And he can be used really, really well in Rush, both on offense and defense. Probably a better offensive hero, but I guarantee you if you level Buster, you won't be sorry. And I know there'll be a lot of people looking at this thinking, yep, I know how good he is. And that's why he makes my number 1 spot. And now we're going to be moving on to the bigger boys. I'm not going to say the big boys because they're not the biggest of the big, but at least the bigger boys. So the epics coming in at number 5, we have 2 heroes again. That's a bit unfair. So number 5 and 6 combined is Gormek. Like I said before, Gormek is just such a versatile hero. He gets, in this costume version, he gets the Tile Dispel, destroys all minions from all enemies. He's a healer as well, and he deals 180% damage to all enemies. And then in this version, he gets the Priority Dispel, where he dispels buffs from all enemies, and he deals 225% damage to all enemies. And then in his base version, which I can't show here because I didn't have enough space, he gets the... what was I going to say now? He gets the defense down, and that is absolutely awesome. So he's like 3 amazing heroes in one, and Gormek is my number 5 pick. Now, moving on to number 4. It's this guy, Junaid. Now, I didn't dwell too much on Junaid a second ago. In fact, I probably did. I've probably dwelled on most of these heroes more than they need to be dwelt on. However, he is an amazing hero. So again, the fighter class is awesome because it gives him the chance to revive. Any damage dealing healer is absolutely awesome in this game for the most part. There are probably 1 or 2 that are terrible, but they're very few and far between. So it's a very simple special, slash and support, and it does what it says. 400% damage to the target, plus the additional 70% damage or whatever it is from his passive, and the negative mana generation, heals all allies for 30% of the damage dealt. And it's a pretty decent heal, and it definitely comes in clutch a lot of the time. Plus, he's one of the hardest hitting snipers, so what more could you want? So Junaid easily makes the number 4 spot. And now moving on to our number 3. Wilbur is coming in at number 3. He's absolutely amazing. I think I probably said enough about this guy, but he works so well. He is an event must-have. Against Titans, he's excellent. He's got a nice meaty defense down, 44% defense down, and he's got a really good defense for all of his allies as well. And the Soul Connection, that actually, you know what? The Soul Connection, just in case you don't know this, it counts as a buff for the enemy team. So if you use him alongside Costume Finley and you fire him off and then you fire Finley next, you can see how Finley hits the whole team even if they don't have buffs. It's not been a massive thing now since the Ether Talents have come out because everybody's got buffs now, so it's not that difficult to find places where Costume Finley shines. But if you use him alongside a Dispel and then cast Wilbur, you'll see what I'm talking about. He's an amazing hero. And yeah, just an awesome example of a hero that you would never expect to be as good as he is, but he is. And he's definitely worth leveling. So he makes my number 3 spot. Now moving on to number 2. Coming in, again, pretty damn hot, is Zabog. Just a weird sounding name, but an awesome hero. Like I said before, this guy has a skill that is so well paired up with so many different heroes in the game that he could not make any lower than number 2 on this list because he can increase or reset the duration of the status elements for all enemies. Now on top of that, he is of the Bard family, so he gives that all-important increase in mana generation, which we all know and love, and comes in really clutch with the advent of the legendary troops because you just want to keep increasing your mana generation as much as possible, and he will do that for you. He gives you the passive where he reduces the revive chance, which is really niche, but still pretty cool. And like I said before, I've been pairing him up with Cupido and just absolutely loving it. And dot damage is a massive thing in the meta at the moment. So dot damage, just remember with this guy, you want to fire him off right at the end and he will refresh the duration of that status element for all enemies. It's not just for a single enemy. It's not just for the one he hits. But that 350 damage is neither here nor there. It's all about his skill and the refreshing of the duration of the status element and the fact that he's a Bard hero as well. So that leaves us with one hero that could that is just shining harder than all of these heroes. I don't know why I just said that. It's been a long day. He is a fantastic hero, just an absolute beast and a monster, and he deserves this number one spot. So it could be none other than the good old hero from season one, Colin, the slow speed hero that came in clutch when you needed him most. And when this costume came out, it was just, yeah, it was just like the end of days for events, for Titans, for tournaments, defense, offense, rush, great self synergy. I can't even stress how good this hero is. He's just absolutely amazing. So, his hit is hard. I mean, 285% damage to the target nearby, and then that massive 54% defense down against fire for 6 turns. The additional damage against nature is nice against Titans, but like I said, he shines in all areas of the game. I use this guy all the time, and I couldn't recommend him more to you guys. So he easily makes my number one spot. And yeah, I hope you guys will agree, but even if you don't, I don't really care that much. I do care a little, but he's still amazing. So that is my number one pick for the Fire Heroes. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video as much as I've enjoyed making it. Honestly, I've had an absolute blast making these videos for you guys. And I really do appreciate all of the support that you've shown me, the likes, the comments, everything else. Also for this video, nothing different. I want to hear your comments. I want to hear what you guys think about these heroes. And also I want to know if you guys are happy with this sort of format, because I do have a couple of other ideas that I'm looking into at the moment, which I want to continue doing these kind of hero breakdown videos for you, and hero tier lists as well. And I want to get into some other options for this as well. So yeah, please do let me know in the comments what you think, and please do drop us a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future videos. But that is going to be it for now, guys. So I wish you everything of the best, and I'll see you all again next time. Bye.